At a certain point, growth stops being about what you launch and starts being about how your customers experience what already exists. This episode is about how to manage a large product line without overwhelming your customers. I am Burnett King, the founder of Noble Crown Fragrances, a company dedicated to elevating your space through the power of scent. The Noble Crown podcast is here to talk about the business of building a product-based brand with lessons learned that help you reach your goals faster and better understand the industry. If you're watching on YouTube, please take a moment to subscribe. It helps the channel grow and keeps you connected to future episodes. This episode is not about when to expand. It's about what happens after expansion succeeds. When you suddenly have a product selection that feels large, complex, or overwhelming. At this point, many founders reach this stage and feel stuck managing. So they're managing multiple categories, multiple price points, multiple entry paths for customers. And the challenge really shifts from how do we tell people we exist to how does someone understand us in under 30 seconds. So once you have range, curation becomes part of the product. You have to curate. And I'm going to walk you through how to do that. So first of all, let's talk about why most customers don't want a lot of choice. They actually want orientation or navigation. Customers aren't really evaluating your ambition as a company, right? So like having a bunch of products doesn't typically matter to a customer. What they're looking for, what they're asking is, where do I start? Which products are for me? What makes these products different from the other products that you offer or from other brands that have, similar categories? So this overwhelming feeling for customers can lead to abandonment, right? So essentially the customer will just give up because they're overwhelmed, and who wants to feel overwhelmed when they're shopping? That overwhelming sensation feeling comes from flat presentation, meaning everything is equally set up the same way or has the same kind of importance when viewing your website. So it's not really the quantity of items that's the problem, it's how they're presented. And then when everything is equal, nothing really feels intentional. So one thing doesn't seem like, hey, this is what I should buy because everything looks the same. And this leads to choice without guidance, right? So now the customer has to choose something and they don't know where to start. They don't know where to look. They don't know how to navigate. This feels like work, and nobody wants to work when they're shopping. Friction is the fastest way to kill conversion. If you put obstacles in the way of a customer, they're going to just give up, right? The product, unless it's a life-saving product, it's not that important, right? And so people are going to just give up. Your customer doesn't need to see everything, right? They need to feel guided through the process. So how do we do that? Well, hierarchy. Hierarchy is like a hidden luxury signal, right? And remember, we have previous episodes about how to build a luxury brand. But what you want to do is have a hierarchy, right? It's not a democracy. Hierarchy kind of shows up a bunch of different ways. So you have hero products versus supporting products. You have entry points like general, hey, I'm just coming to your brand for the first time, versus deep cuts like, hey, my best customers know about these things, or very targeted, I want to go right here when I start the buying process. And then you have like staples or core versus seasonal expressions. Now, for me in fragrance, this is super important, right? I have core lines that kind of last all year, but then I also have seasonal things to make sure that I ramp them up during those seasonal periods like holidays, various holidays throughout the year. So kind of Christmas, holiday themes, Halloween, what we call dads and grads, right? The kind of, end of school year time period. So there are these seasonal things, but you also want to have your staples, and you want to be able to tell the story differently for those different things because people are usually either looking for one or the other. Not everything, you have to remember, not everything deserves the same visibility, right? So on your webpage as you're building it out, or in your shopping experience, even, if this is in a store, especially in a store, some things need to stand out, right? So if you're pushing certain things, you want them to stand out, right? Say you're running a sale. You want those sale items in front of people's faces, right? You want to get rid of that inventory and you want to tell people, hey, this is discounted. You should check it out. Not everything also needs a permanent role, right? So that's the other thing. We'll get into this later, but editing and like having products last forever is not necessarily a good thing. So customers feel safer when a brand clearly leads them, that guidance, right? And hierarchy is the way to guide them. This is a merchandising philosophy, not necessarily a growth strategy. This is about how you organize what you already have. And so navigation, let's talk digitally, right? Because most of you guys are running e-commerce businesses or are interested in that. And so let's talk about navigation. This is the typical way to establish a hierarchy. Uh, Decent design navigation should not be for you or your team, right? Things might make sense to you in a different way than they make sense to the customer. You're with the product every day. You know exactly what this product does. It's very clear to you what its purpose is or who it's for. But as a new customer or even a repeat customer, your customers don't think that way. You need to design your navigation for how people actually shop, not how you think or how your team thinks. So I'll give you some examples, right? Because I just changed my navigation on my homepage at Noble Crown. And what I did is I thought about the ways that people shop and not the way that I design product. So first I did scent families. So scent family is literally the first category you see when you hit my webpage, my homepage. And so this is the way that customers typically shop when they know what they like, right? So say I'm a fragrance customer and I know I like floral scents. I want to see all the floral scents easily, right? So this is that category, right? I can go into scent families. There's one called floral. I click that, all your floral products show up, right? Then I have the next category over is shop by product. So this is customer shopping by format, product format. So I want a candle, or I want a perfume, or I want a room spray, right? Those are intentional shoppers who typically come in for a specific purpose and they know the type of product they want to buy. You do this in a grocery store, right? You create your list of products that you want to buy and you try to navigate to them as quickly as possible. Then I have a category called Spotlight. So Spotlight is my best, most representative offerings, right? So I put my best sellers under there or anything that I want to highlight at a particular time of the year. And these are people who are like getting to know your brand. And so maybe they want to know what your best sellers are. They don't really know anything about what they like or what they're here for, but they want to know what you offer and they want to see the best of what you offer. Then I have a section called sample and save. So sample and save are for those hesitant buyers, right? Or first time buyers. So people who want to try something, but they're like, I don't want to spend a bunch of money, or I just want to try something small. I don't necessarily want to buy something, commit to something large. And that represents a lot of first time buyers across industries. Then I have sale. Sale is my last section. These are for value seeking customers, right? Or repeat customers who are hoping something that they already bought is on sale. So people are price sensitive and they might have a certain budget and they want to understand, hey, I'm getting a great deal on this product. Let me just go jump to the sales section. So you can see how this kind of navigation hierarchy removes guesswork and aligns itself to how people actually shop, not how my products are designed. So we talked about hierarchy. Let's talk about product roles, right? So products need roles, not just descriptions. Here are some common product roles, right? We're going to break down kind of 4 categories of product roles. So gateway products. These are lower commitment, first touch items, right? So these are the first products that kind of ease people into your brand. They're typically associated with lower price points, but they don't have to be. So these are things that like, hey, they're going to set a good impression, or hey, they're going to be easy to try out. Then you have commitment products. So these are higher investments, right? So either higher prices or something that may be a little more niche, not as generic, right? And they are typically for your repeat customers. So they have a deeper loyal sense of loyalty. And these are products that are going to hopefully like really lock in your customer as like a loyalist to your brand. They're going to keep coming back once they've kind of bought these commitment products. Then you have exploration products. So exploration products are things like bundles, samplers, discovery sets, right? So these are things that, hey, I want to try a little bit of each of everything that you have. I don't really know what I want, but here's a good way to sample them, right? And I love these, especially in fragrance industry, because fragrances are really hard to buy online and people don't necessarily know what your scent is going to smell like, or a particular scent is going to smell like. So why not offer them a bundle or a discovery set so they can try a bunch of things at and have a low risk associated with them? And the last category we'll talk about is gifting products. So, gifting products, these are designed and marketed for occasions. People are always buying gifts, right? And this is kind of no matter what physical product you're selling. So, find a way to organize or market things as a giftable product, and that's a typical role of a product. So, if a product doesn't have a role, it is just noise. It just sits out there, right? So try to bucket like, and these are just four types of roles. You can have way more or fewer, but figure out what the roles are for your products, and then try to make sure that all of your products fit into one of those categories. So I'll give you some examples again from my business. So gateway products. So 10 milliliter perfumes. Why is that a gateway product? Because it's a introduction to a scent. Wax melts, same thing, right? So my with both of these products, I'm intending you to buy something larger later, right? So with the 10 mil perfume, if you like it, you're probably going to come back and buy the larger bottle because you're going to run out of that 10 milliliters pretty quickly. Wax melts, if you like those wax melts, you might buy the larger candle, right? You wax melts is kind of a cheaper way to try out a scent in wax. A commitment product. So these again are larger price for your loyal customers. Reed diffusers. So my reed diffusers are probably I think they're my highest price product. And so these are for people who have already tried the scent and they know they want their home to smell like that. And so they're going to invest in that product. And also commitment products tend to last longer, right? So my reed diffusers last several months. And so this is something that even though it has a higher price point, I'm committing to this scent for a period of time. Exploration products, this one's easy. I offer perfume discovery sets. Again, I'm trying to take the risk out of buying something online. And another thing I do to even lower the risk more is give a bounce back discount on those products. So that way, if somebody likes them, they're essentially getting that discovery set almost free. And so then they can come back and buy a larger product. And then a gifting example, I have lots of these, especially during holiday, but one specific product I build out for gifting are my holiday candle trios. So these are three smaller votive size candles that come in a nice packaging, and it allows you to give three different scents to someone who wants a gift right during the holidays. And so these are just examples for me, but go through your catalog and try to figure out what role is your product serving. So let's talk about some practical ways to orient your customers, right? So once you have a range, your job isn't necessarily to reduce it or expand it. It's to actually serve orientation tools so that customers can navigate and quickly find things. So you want to declare a starting point. That's one way to do it. Start here, right? And you can literally have a button called Start Here, or new here. You might want to put that in your navigation. And then where do you want someone to go if they're new, right? And this is going to vary per product type, but it might be your best sellers, right? That might be a way to start. Limit what's shown first, right? So don't try to throw everything onto your homepage. I would say if people are coming into your homepage and really exploring that, try to curate it. Try to make it an experience that you walk the customer through rather than just throwing every single product you have up there. And then use guiding language, right? So literally tell people what these things are for. So the product roles, right? This is best for gifting. And you can put these in the product descriptions. Best for small spaces, best for first time customers. The gifting one is also great. You can even tag these on your images, right? You can literally put this on a product photo and say, ideal for gifts, or, last X amount of time, right? This doesn't restrict their choices. It just allows the customer to decide quickly. Next, we're going to talk about cohesion, right? So another way to bring down that overwhelming feeling is to have cohesion. And cohesion comes from repetition, not newness, right? Cohesion is kind of opposite of newness per se, right? Customers recognize patterns before they understand a product. And some high level signals of cohesion are repeated materials, right? So I'm using paper over and over again with my sleeves and my packaging. I'm using the same type of wax across my candle line. So think about what materials you're using and try to limit uh, disparity. You want to actually have repeat the same things over and over again. Repeated color language, so branding elements, right? We're talking about visual styles. Colors are super important to this. If you have every color under the rainbow, it doesn't make your brand look cohesive. It doesn't make your products look cohesive. It might be fun. It might even be greatly designed, but you're not going to have cohesion there, and it's going to feel overwhelming to a customer who's not familiar with your brand. Repeated naming structures, right? So when you're talking about product names, try to have the same kind of thing, the repeated name or sizes even in your product descriptions. Pricing logic, same idea. So when you jump from, let's say, one size to another, you should have the same pricing for several products that have those sizes, but you should also make it logical in how prices increase across sizes or change across sizes. And that will make it easier for a customer's brain to process your pricing. Repeated photography style. So this is a big one. I try to do this on social media in particular, but make sure that your filters or the way product photos are shot or the way lifestyle product photos are shot look similar. They don't have to be identical, right? Because you do want to indicate how this product differs from another product, but the style, the artistic style of the photography should be similar. It also adds to your brand cohesion overall. So here's my simple rule for cohesion is pick 3 to 5 things that your brand repeats across all channels. So not just your website, but also in your PR and in your social media and in your emails, right? Any kind of marketing channel that you use and sales channel that you use, try to have those repeatable elements because again, it will add cohesion. When customers recognize that structure, they become more familiar and less overwhelmed with what's going on, even if you have a large product selection. Let's next talk about editing. So editing is not just a one-time process. This is an ongoing practice. You don't have to keep everything forever. This is a hard one for me. I love the amount of time and energy I put into each one of my scents makes me feel like I need to keep this product around forever. If customers just knew about this scent, they would buy it. They would love it. Not necessarily the case, right? So how do you start editing? First, I always say start with your lowest financial performers. This drags down your marketing efficiency and your inventory focus. So here's an example. If you are advertising for something, right, and you are pushing traffic to low performers, you're wasting your ad money, right? If something is sitting around and not selling, advertising those products or pushing traffic to those products is a waste on both ends. Not only is your inventory sitting there, but then you're wasting money pushing potentially new customers who would buy something else to something that is dead inventory that they're not going to buy. So start by getting rid of those low financial performers. Next, get rid of products that confuse the catalog. So there might be something that has a similar price point to something else or a very similar use, and you aren't really sure on what the difference is between them or why a customer would buy this one versus that one. Get rid of one of them, right? Like the point is you don't want to confuse the customer by having things that are too similar to each other. And then lastly, get rid of products that no longer fit the current story. Your business evolves over time. Your product selection should evolve over time as well. Things that might have worked really well in the past may not be where you're going in the future. And so you always want to kind of stay a little bit ahead of where your customers are and start thinking about what you can get rid of so that you can expand into new directions and try new things. So some products stay for margin, some stay for the story, and some should just quietly exit. So sunsetting a product is not failure. It's actually taking creative control and taking a direction and a stand with your business. Now, why do people feel overwhelmed? Let's talk like about the feeling a little bit. If you can't explain your product line simply, customers won't understand it either, right? If you don't have a clear intention with your product, your brand, your business, your customer, who is this thing for, right? Then the customer isn't going to understand it either, right? Even if you stumble into it and you have customers buying things, if you aren't really clear on who that customer is and what this product is solving for them, then eventually it's going to lead to overwhelming feelings or a lack of clarity. So you should also have clarity around when items get promoted or go on sale, when things get restocked and what gets restocked, right? What's a limited edition product that you have a limited supply of versus what's a staple that you will always restock, and when you should restock it. What gets retired, right? We just talked about editing. And then what needs explanation and what doesn't. So some things are intuitive. Some products are super intuitive. People are already familiar with how they work. You can be a little more creative with your explanations or your descriptions. And then some things are complex or, might not be as popular in the market. And so you might need to do some more explanation about how to use the product, what it's for, and be explicit about why a customer should buy it. Now, leadership should reduce overwhelming feelings, right? This is what this episode is about. How to reduce that overwhelming feeling even when you have a lot of products. Customers do not need more choice. They need guidance and they need leadership. They need to be told, like, hey, this is what this is for. Here's the type of shopper you might be. Here are the products that I offer that match your intentions. The next takeaway, cohesion isn't minimalism, it's actually intention, right? So cohesion shows direction and leadership. It doesn't mean you're just, always a minimal brand. It means that you are streamlining things for people in a way to make them less overwhelmed with a large set of products. And then a large catalog only works when someone is in charge, right? If you have a clear direction. So make sure that you feel like you are growing in your business, but also streamlining your business. So cohesion and editing. Make sure that you are kind of pruning as the tree grows, so to speak. The work is really curation. It's not necessarily creation of more products. So in closing, if your brand feels overwhelming, it's not because you've done too much. It's because the story hasn't necessarily caught up to it yet. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. It helps spread the joy of fragrance and supports fellow entrepreneurs. If you'd like to explore any of the fragrances behind today's example, please visit noblecrown.shop. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.